Take two. Hopefully it's better inside. I was kind of hoping to be outside. The lighting is a little grainier in here, but hopefully this gets rid of the glitchiness. Hopefully you guys can see me now. Hopefully everybody realizes we just switched over. So let's give everybody a second to come back. So for those of you that missed the first 10, 15 minutes, I had started this chat and there was some problem with, I think, the Wi-Fi. So I moved in. Okay, cool. So for all the housekeeping and stuff, make sure to watch the first part of this stream if you are new. Hello, Francisco. Francisco, you can't get to me today. You know why? You know why? Because there are spiders on my fingers. Okay. Just had to get that out of my system. Ooh, Saul. I love it. We have Saul in the chat today. Better call you, right? I know I'm silly. I am actually really loving these. That's one of the things I love doing every year. It's like my win, my little treat to myself is my Halloween nails. And I think they turned out really cute this year. So that is my Amanda win for the week. Spencer, don't make me punch you. I don't endorse violence unless you talk crap about NSYNC. Then I will Samara my way through the screen. David says Halloween nails to the Babylonian gods. Indeed. I mean, there's black on them, so that counts, right? See, Francisco, I am now immune. Thank you, Dean. Yeah, that video a couple weeks ago definitely just kind of knocked me out. I took the rest of the day and tried to process and tried to journal on my own, like we were talking about in the first part of this. Tried to do some of that shadow work, tried to listen to some other music and just sit with the feelings, be uncomfortable for a while, work on trying to figure out the best move going forward or the best next step. Because that's what I try to think and things in context of is what's the next step? What's the next move? Oh, Spencer, don't even be sorry. I was MIA for a couple weeks too. And it's just been, there's a lot going on. So I'm trying really hard to stay caught up with everything. Aaron says, I watch your last video almost every day. I'm afraid that I'm going to make you depressed. There are certain things I think that are kryptonite. I think all of us have that kryptonite. And a lot of the times it is grief or loss or something that we just can't seem to obtain. There's that one thing that's just our absolute kryptonite. Maybe it's being bullied at school or something. Maybe it's abuse from parents or in a relationship, but there's that one thing that can be really, really, really hard to come to terms with, to get through, to figure out how to best handle. And that's mine. That is mine. Specky says, best part of spooky season, Simpsons Treehouse of Horrors episodes, #nostalgia. Please don't hate me. I don't like The Simpsons. I never have. I was not allowed to watch them growing up because they made parents look stupid. So my parents would not allow me to watch that, although I was allowed to watch things about Jeffrey Dahmer and I was allowed to watch Married with Children, all these other things. But The Simpsons is where my parents drew their line, which fine, all parents have their boundaries. But I was so excited when I had the ability to watch it for the first time. I was so excited because I thought, oh my gosh, it has to be so funny, so good. I remember watching the first episode and I couldn't even get all the way through it. I just said, I don't get it. I guess it's just not my breed of humor. So I watched half an episode and people have sent me a few clips over the years that I watched, but just never been into The Simpsons. David is right. Sometimes it isn't getting through. It's learning to live with. I think it's getting through the stuck part of it so that it's not controlling your life, you know? So yes, it's learning to live with that hole in your heart. It's learning to live with accepting something you just don't want to accept. And it is learning to live with it. It is learning to get through it to a certain degree, as in get through the initial mourning period or get through the paralyzation of the grief. That's what I meant. Oh, I have a very bright light making glare on my face. Yeah, there's not really a good a good situation here. I don't have a light set up, so I am just kind of winging it today. I didn't have my light set up or anything because I get to sit over here and love on these doggies today. So I'm in a different location. So I'm having to do the best I can. Thanks, Francisco. David, so yeah, there's not a light in here. What are you guys talking about? There's no lights on in here. I'm just naturally glowing. I'm just naturally radiating light. So I want to read the good news story for the day. I do have a bit of a time limit. Aaron and I are going to see the 20th anniversary showing of Saw tonight in theaters. So we do have tickets for that. So I want to make sure that we get everything in. So, Ryan, I think this would be really happy news for you. I know that there's been a lot of anxiety surrounding the hurricanes and stuff lately, of homes being lost, people's lives being lost, and I thought this was a perfect time to share this good news story, that Florida has created domed homes that have survived Category 5 hurricanes. As Florida's been hit by several devastating hurricanes, homes designed to withstand these extreme storms have gone through a serious test. In 2018, Hurricane Michael made history, becoming the first Category 5 hurricane on record to make landfall in the Florida Panhandle. It caused widespread destruction and damage, sweeping entire buildings off their foundations and impacting almost 50,000 structures. But in a small Gulf front community in Mexico Beach, Florida, something unexpected could be seen amidst the chaos. One home, an unusual caterpillar-like dome-shaped structure, remains standing, barely touched by the 160-mile-per-hour wind speeds. The home, called Goldeneye, love it, my mom is definitely smiling at that, belonged to Margaret Clayton, who designed and built the house in 2015 with a construction company called Monolith Domes. Clayton's neighbor's house exploded, sending a transformer flying into her house and smashing into the wall. All the homes around me were destroyed or uninhabitable, she said. Goldeneye, meanwhile, remains intact. The wow factor comes when you see those photos, says Landolph Road Barbarigos, an associate professor in the University of Miami's Civil, Architectural, and Environmental Engineering Department and associate director of the Climate Resilience Institute. Total destruction next to a dome house that's still standing. It's quite impressive. In the U.S., that fan is driving me nuts. Oh, hang on just a minute. Hopefully that turned that off because it's driving me nuts to have that in the background. There we go. We'll cover it by my head. My fat head can cover it. Total destruction next to a dome house that's still standing. It's quite impressive. In the U.S., hurricanes cause more death and destruction than any other extreme weather event. Since 1980, there have been $363 billion weather disasters in the U.S., and hurricanes have caused the most damage, more than $1.3 trillion in total, with an average cost of $22.8 billion per event. As of 2023, they have caused 6,890 deaths. With hurricanes rapidly becoming more intense due to climate change and even Category 1 storms being capable of causing severe damage, building storm-resilient homes is becoming increasingly important. What do you guys think about this? Because obviously, these kinds of things cause a lot of anxiety. So this is what they look like. Things like this cause a lot of anxiety because there's no real way to prepare for it before this. I feel like, sure, you can go to the bunker or whatever, but your home is still going to be destroyed. And I can't imagine living with the constant anxiety of losing everything that means anything to me, everything that I worked so hard for. And sure, there's homeowners insurance, but that doesn't cover all of the meaningful things, all of those sentimental things. So I just think that that is a really awesome step in the right direction to help save lives, but to also give people a peace of mind and reduce their anxiety surrounding hurricanes if they can feel safer. If this starts becoming the norm, is building houses like this in these areas that are susceptible, specifically Florida, then I feel like people can feel a lot more at ease. What do you guys think? Bye, Spudkey. I'm glad you stopped by. Yeah, I agree, David. I think it's a starting point in making progress toward more sustainable environments in this community or these communities. You know what? Just because before we get to our snaps, just because it's spooky season and I want to get in the mood to go watch Saw tonight, I think we should share some scary stories. I've been reading a lot of glitches lately. Bryson loves reading glitches in the Matrix off the Reddit thread. I like listening to Mr. Nightmare videos around this time of year, different spooky stories and stuff. So if you guys have had any scary experiences, I would love to hear about them, whether it's paranormal or just that could have turned into a really bad situation. I don't know what I found or what I saw, but that could have turned into a bad situation. Francisco says storms like that, they really suck. They tear families apart and cause severe trauma. Unfortunately, it's part of being human. It is, and I understand that natural disasters are going to happen and people die. That's part of life. That's part of the cycle. But I think when we can do things to reduce the trauma you're talking about, when we can do things to make people safer and make them feel safer, I think that's moving in the right direction. T. Montgomery blinks. How dark you want to go? My dude, I literally binged all the Saw movies to cope with depression last year. Not necessarily depression, just overwhelm. I was feeling very overwhelmed. I was feeling very overwhelmed with grief. I was feeling very stuck and binged all the Saw movies to cope. So believe me, I can handle dark. Right now I'm in a death investigations class, a history of religion and violence class. That let me read you a part of the syllabus for that class. Warning. This course will require the open examination discussion of some very difficult themes, including the review and discussion of murder, torture, conflict, death, oppression. So good stuff. I have a love for the macabre. I have a love for the dark. I have a love for those sorts of things. This death scene investigation class has probably been the most interesting class I've had through my entire academic career. It's been really fun. I love the instructor. I took the class because I love the instructor. I had him for forensics last fall, and he is just a lot of fun. Spencer says you couldn't pay me enough to watch those movies. I would honestly have nightmares for life. The funny thing was when the first one came out 20 years ago, I refused to have anything to do with it. Aaron actually also refused to have anything to do with it because of his own trauma, some of the things he was dealing with. David, can you keep track of the donations for me, please? I don't have anything to write down with. Thank you. But it got to a point where I ended up watching the first one. The first one actually isn't all that bad. The second one isn't really terribly bad either. And then they get progressively more gory. But I was really intrigued by the storyline. I don't do just torture for the sake of torture. I don't like Hostel or movies like that. But John's character arc, Jigsaw, his character arc, really hit home to me. And it just felt, I guess, in a way, kind of validating to my shadow. I'm not sure whether to say anything. I feel like anybody that's wanted to see them has seen them by now, and if not, I'm not going to be spoiling anything. So the main attraction for me was the fact that this isn't explained until a couple in, but my dad was terminally ill. And they ended up canceling his life insurance, and he had a lot of trouble getting things covered. And my mom, I'm completely convinced, passed away because she could not get proper medical care. She couldn't afford insurance. She was trying to keep it for a while. She was working 2 jobs and tried to keep it for a while, but just couldn't afford it. So ended up canceling her medical insurance and just went uninsured and couldn't get the treatment she needed. Part of John's character arc is he can't get the cancer treatment that he needs. And another part of his character arc is that this addict ends up inadvertently causing his wife to have a miscarriage. yeah, is it still a miscarriage of 8 months? I think it's actually a stillbirth. But anyway, they lose their unborn child at 8 months, and he just completely shuts down and completely goes off the rails. And I'm thinking, that seems reasonable. That seems relatable. So the mixture between this man being denied care because he's told that his life isn't worth it because he's older, and going off the rails because he loses his unborn child seems completely reasonable to me. Since I would more than likely have to get a pistol sitting on my nightstand all the time. No, you just have to appreciate your life. As long as you appreciate your life, you're not going to be a target. Oh, Spencer doesn't like Halloween. I love Halloween. It's honestly my favorite. I used to really like my birthday, but Halloween is just something that we can get into in more of a community aspect, not just the community here, but I can engage with it with other people out and about, you know. Spencer says, gotta bail. My win is no nicotine in 7 days. Yay! Big snap. Should we do snaps? I think we should do snaps. I did bring the snap cup, so have snap cup will travel. So I think we should definitely do our snaps. So, oh, are you here to do snaps too? Yes, come here. We have help. I hope they howl. I hope they bark and howl with me. Snap cup time. Oh, look, I have my own bruiser. Snap cup time, gather round, friends and foes together, united and bound. Pass it to your neighbor instead of blowing up, and you'll find harmony and love in a snap cup. They wanted to participate. Alrighty. Francisco says, have you ever seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre? I have, actually. I've seen the Jessica Biel version, which made me a little happy because, you know, she took my husband. She stole my husband away. Stephen Kersker says, thank you, Aaron. First, I want to say thank you for your support. Today was a great day for me. My father and I got to play a round of golf for the first time in 10 years. It felt so good to spend some time together and in a healthy way and work on our relationship. I love that for you. I love that you get to have that time. I don't think it's ever too late to mend a relationship and to work on building it or to work on repairing it. So I really love that for you. I'm happy for you. So big snaps to Stephen. Yeah, there's 3 of them. There's Daphne, Marjo, and Guillaume. Guillaume's older, so he's not as social. He'll come over every now and then and kind of say, please love me, and then disappear. Keith Smith says, as I was growing up, I was bullied and treated as an outcast for being different. Relatable. As the years passed, I was asked to carry caskets. I've carried 17 caskets of family and friends. The time moves forward with the darkness growing through everything. It was when my daughter was in my life that the world grew bright and seemed better. Until the dark clouds rolled back over. My daughter was taken from me in 2018, and I haven't seen her since. My mom passed next year, then friends from school passing. I don't think I've had a year since I was 11 where someone hasn't passed. I'm 52 now. Nothing really helps, but knowing my daughter is out there keeps hope to see her again one day. Okay, I did not wear waterproof mascara again. You think I would have learned my lesson after the James Blunt video, but I was not ready for this field strip right now. I do think that it's good that you're seeing that tiny little sliver of a silver lining. Even if it's small, it's something to hold on to during this time. And this is exactly where I was last year, where it was just person after person after person after person. And I couldn't keep up. It wasn't even 1 year. It was multiple in the same year. And it was exhausting. And I couldn't seem to catch my footing. So I completely understand how overwhelming it can be when you keep having people that you love, people very close to you pass. My parents were 2 years apart. And after that, it was very consistent that I would just keep having these losses. So it can be very heavy. And it can be very difficult to deal with. I am not even going to try to give advice to pretend that everything's going to be okay, because it's a lot of grief to work through. And it's like we were talking about earlier, you don't ever get over it. there just comes a point where it transitions from this feeling of emptiness to a feeling of being able to connect with them in some way and being able to find ways to still incorporate them into your life. And in the beginning, you may or may not be ready for that. I mean, some people want to get right to that and they kind of dive right into that within the weeks after someone's passing, but it takes time. And in this case, I mean, I had a therapist, my last therapist, tell me, and this was last year or earlier this year, I was trying to get help with dealing with some of the grief from last year. And he said, I can't help you process the grief when things keep happening, when you keep having new grief, when you keep having these new losses, there comes a point where you have to just sit with the pain and you have to sit with that discomfort and you have to find the reasons that you want to be here, not the reasons for other people. But this is an excellent example of maybe it is time to seek professional help to help start coping with some of this and processing some of this. Like I said, though, it can be very hard when it just keeps hitting one after another. But I think the valuable thing that come out of that therapist. Are you guys just gonna wrestle right there, really? I think the really valuable thing that came out of that therapist was learning to release. So we were doing a lot of EMDR, and I was learning to release in positive ways instead of suppressing, because I didn't even realize I'd been doing it. I didn't realize I'd been suppressing, but he was teaching me to let go, to work every single day on letting go, and not letting go of the people, not letting go of their memories, not letting go of their energy, but letting go of the pain associated with it so that I could move toward those more bright and positive and happy feelings, even though the loss is never going to feel happy. Like with my parents, for example, now, yes, I miss them. And yes, sometimes I still desperately cry because I want my mom or my dad. But more often than not, I'm able to say, like earlier when I was reading the thing that it was named Goldeneye, I'm able to say, oh, my mom would love that, and think fondly of her and think back on the times of her. We got to go see Die Another Day, James Bond movie together. And so my mind goes into a more positive spiral as opposed to a more negative spiral. But snaps to you for, again, finding that silver lining in a time where you just can't seem to catch a break. And I've looked a lot this year into Buddhism simply because Buddhism doesn't try to pretend that everything is amazing and happy, and it doesn't try to pretend that we need to pretend that everything is amazing and happy. One of the core concepts of Buddhism is that life is suffering, and life is not meant to be comfortable. Life is not meant to be easy all the time. That there are meant to be these trials, and we are meant to move toward enlightenment because of them. We are meant to find the lessons in them, even if those lessons don't feel good. And that's been really helpful to me, is to dive more and more into Buddhism as opposed to getting sucked into this whole, well, why aren't you happy? Why aren't you grateful? Why aren't you looking at all the things you do have? Well, because when there's something that you really want, it's not so easy to just say, oh, I don't want that anymore. David says, my win is an Amanda smile. I've been smiling a lot in the last few weeks. Thank you. I forgot to say that our goal is 250 for the stream so that we can, it's like WrestleMania behind me right now, so that we can reach other people and help people in the community, so we can keep paying for therapy and getting those workbooks into the hands of people that can use them, and just helping people as we can. The one 2 weeks ago was, I don't know, I think she was a nurse. I'm going to say nurse because I don't know her official title, but she was really struggling, and we were able to help her because her door had gotten destroyed and she was in a really bad position with her kids and stuff and just couldn't really afford to fix it. So we were able to do that. So thank you, David, for that pledge and to remind me to say that, because I didn't say that earlier. That was heavy. I'm not going to lie. That was heavy. And I know that I can tend to ramble when that topic comes up, like with the James Blunt video. Hopefully there were some nuggets in there that you could extract. David Weddick says, as everything seems to be falling down around me, I managed to get through it without turning back to alcohol. Watch your reactions to songs has helped me as well. I'm so happy to hear that. And congratulations. I'm really proud of you for being able to manage without relapsing into that. That's huge. I know how tempting it can be when we get in that dark place to turn to our old vices, to listen to those whispers in our ear, because we know that devil, we know that, sure, it can help for the time being until it doesn't. So I'm really happy that you can see, you know what, that's a false friend and it's not going to help me in the long run. But I'm really happy that my song reactions can provide some kind of help in navigating through that with success too. I'm proud of you. I am a WCW girl, David, but I didn't figure a lot of people in here would recognize the WCW terminology as much as the WWF terminology. Jake Smith says, I got through getting my car inspection this weekend. Whew, yes. It's difficult for me because I always have this worry that I'm getting ripped off, but people seem trustworthy. Yeah, I have that worry too. And it's always so frustrating because I'm always terrified that they're going to find something. I'm going to be out of blinker fluid or something. I'm not the chick that will fall for that, but I actually, first and foremost, snaps for getting through that. It's super stressful. I remember one time when I was a teenager, I had my mom, who her car was having problems, and I had her take it in, and then I had my guy friend take it into the exact same place, right? And they literally tried to charge my mom about 2.5 times as much for the exact same car within a week of each other. Like, my friend took it in, say, on a Monday, and then my mom took it in on the following Monday. So it's not like that much more would have been wrong with it, but they tried to charge my mom about 2.5 times what they were going to charge him. So they absolutely do rip people off. And that is one of the ways that sexism is alive and well, because if I go to a mechanic, they're going to assume I know nothing and try to rip me off. So that is one of the things. I'm not usually I assign certain chores or tasks to Aaron, or that I do certain things because I'm the woman. I think that we split pretty evenly, but that's the one thing that I'm, please take care of everything car related, because I don't trust that I won't get ripped off. I have been ripped off many times. Okay. Ashley Carper says, I had a very bad manic episode and I didn't set a lot of stuff I would normally. The only win is that I'm still here. Always a big win. And when you're still here, that means that you can go back and work on making amends for those things. Big snaps. Like I said in the first part before this video got cut off, before we had the connection problems, I remember when I was in active addiction, even before I learned to manage my BPD, before I learned to manage my splitting episodes, I remember when I would go off and I'd say the nastiest things to my partner, the nastiest things to my parents, the nastiest things to my best friends. And then you go through that guilt cycle of, oh my God, I said and did this, and now I don't know what to do when you have to go through this process. I learned, number one, how to manage that better so it doesn't happen as often. But when it does happen, trying to figure out, okay, what was it that triggered this episode? Is there something that I can do to prevent that in the future, or at least blunt it a little bit so it's not as intense? But if it does happen, what can I do? I also talked to my close friends and said, look, if these things are happening, here's the signs. I knew the signs pretty well in myself. I said, here's the signs. If these things are happening, it's probably a good idea for me to take some time to myself for a while. If you do want to be with me, here's the things, or if you do want to be around me, here's the things that I'm needing in this moment. So I feel like trying to be self-aware enough to know what you need when you do have those episodes, trying to avoid things that might trigger them as much as possible, and just having open communication, setting boundaries with the people that are in your life, so that they are aware of it. And like I was saying, when my dad was coming off nicotine, or when he was coming off morphine after he'd have surgeries, and he'd be coming off morphine in the hospital when he came home, and he was just such a jerk. He would say the most terrible things and he'd threaten. And I grew to know that's not my dad, and he didn't mean it. And it's not how he really feels, and it has nothing to do with me. That's the drugs talking. That's the monster talking is what I would think in my head. And I never was traumatized by that. So I think there's a certain level of, if you're friends with somebody or if you're a partner with somebody who does struggle in this way, that it's important to know when they're dysregulating, when they're having an episode. DB says, I've hurt my friend a few times in the past month. Yesterday I sent her a video and I thought it was funny, but she told me she didn't find it funny, so hasn't spoken to me all day. That's really tragic. I had upset a friend a couple years ago, and I made a video that I put a lot of heart and soul into to send to her, and she just didn't receive it very well. She still said that she needed space, and we've mended things. It took her a couple months, but we were able to mend things. And in the end, she said, that gesture really did mean a lot. I just wasn't ready to receive it. So it really did help. It's just that it didn't help in that moment. And maybe you can have a conversation with her about how, obviously, your intent was to try to mend the bridges. If there's a different way that she is wanting to see that, you're open to that, and maybe just have an honest conversation with it, because maybe she's looking for something specific. I know a lot of times if I get mad, if somebody tries to do something funny, it can really upset me, because I'm going, this isn't funny, and I don't want you to just laugh it off. So even if it's something that I would normally have been amused by, I might not be in that moment. So maybe just having a conversation. Tony Travis, are you still in here? Said, I talked to Colin every night, which allowed me to reset my mind every night because of the PTSD. I've every night had Colin this weekend, every weekend. He's with me is a win. Yes, it is. Did I snap to the last one? Yes. But yes, that is a very big win to have Colin. The cousin of a brother I served with took his life last weekend from a massive OD on fentanyl. The win is that I have not given in to the demons screaming at me to go back to my addictions to opioids and numb the pain from my 5 brothers dying. Biggest win is that I started my new job this last Monday. Side note, this opioid idea stuff has to stop. Screw, I'm trying to think of another word, but trying to keep this as clean as possible, even though it truly pisses me off. Big Pharma. So screw Big Pharma. Well, snaps to you for being able to stay in recovery despite these things happening, and for getting to spend time with Colin. Fentanyl is no joke. I have been really worried about a friend who fell off the wagon and is back using again. And I've really been trying to help her. She wants to get into rehab but can't afford it and doesn't have insurance to cover it. So it's just a very upsetting situation for her. So I've been trying to look over options to figure out something there. But I do agree that this opioid crisis needs to stop. And as much as I think that medications are overprescribed in this country, as much as I think that it becomes a first line of defense when it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be just the go-to for every time someone has an anxiety attack. But I do think that even opioids have their place, but just like antidepressants have their place and anti-anxiety meds have their place, and SSRIs and all these different medications have their place, we're not focusing on that. We're just slinging it around like it's candy, and it's way too easy to get access to for people that are abusing it. And there's no real fail-safes that I know of when people are prescribed these things to keep them from abusing them, other than obviously limiting the prescriptions, things like that, giving them smaller prescriptions. Of course, there's fail-safes like that in place, but I just don't think that's enough, because nowadays it's pretty easy to get if you want it. I think the bigger problem there is that we have created this culture where we feel like we constantly have to numb ourselves. We feel like we constantly have to avoid. We constantly have to run from our feelings, from our emotions, because we were never taught to handle them. And I feel like the more we're taught to process instead of suppress, because that's where addictions and stuff come from in many cases, is we're suppressing emotions. And then when they start to come out, we say no, and we like whack-a-mole our emotions and try to shove them back down. And then when that doesn't work anymore, we start turning to different substances, we start turning to our screen, or we start turning to these vices to try to shut off the noise. And I think that the more we open up, the more we talk about this, the more we have education, schools and stuff, the more that we're going to see improvement with this. We need to be supporting people so that they're not encouraged to seek out this sort of thing in the first place. But I'm really happy, like I said, that you are getting to see Colin so often, and I'm really sorry about your friend. I hope that they can eventually, come to a place of peace with this. I don't want to say of acceptance, because you never really accept it, but come to a place of peace and maybe be part of the solution in his honor, for speaking out against this. I have wanted to do that for a long time with smoking and stuff because of my dad, and I plan to look more into that in 2025, because I think it's a beautiful way to honor our loved ones, especially those who have lost their lives, be it from unaliving themselves or from ODs or from smoking, things like that. It's a great way to honor and connect with them. So I encourage you guys to maybe raise awareness and stuff for fentanyl overdose. But I hope that you guys are able to find strength during this time. Hello, Matt. Was that it? Oh, we only have one more. You guys can share your wins here in the chat too, and I will read them. Adam Rikowski says, my wins are when I manage to suppress my demons just to make it through another day. I'm happy that you made it through another day, first and foremost, but I think that learning to dance with our demons, so to speak, as opposed to suppressing them, is a lot more effective. Take it from somebody who suppressed her demons for years. And I kind of like to think that you can try to drown out your demons with alcohol or drugs or scrolling TikTok and Instagram or whatever the case is. You can try to drown your demons, but eventually they learn how to swim. And unless you're learning to work with them, and that's why I turn to some of the things I do, and it might seem dark and it might not make sense to other people. Like Spencer was saying earlier, I could never watch the Saw movies, but it's a coping mechanism for me, because number one, it's allowing me to feel uncomfortable and work through that discomfort in a controlled environment, knowing that I can walk away, knowing that I can close my eyes, I can stop at any time, but feeling that anxiety build and breathing through it and using those skills. So that way, when something happens in life that I don't have control over, I've already built kind of muscle memory for that stuff. So it comes as a coping mechanism in that sense, but it's also a playground for my shadow, because as you're calling them demons, I call my shadow. But when I tried to just pretend she wasn't there, she got louder. But when I started giving her time in the spotlight, when I started giving her space, when I started saying, okay, you know what, fine, we'll just watch kill counts over on the Dead Meat channel. We'll watch these movies and stuff. I have my boundaries. I know what's too much for me. I know what is truly helpful. I have really done that work and done that self-reflection. But I think whether for some people it's going in the complete opposite direction, and they say, okay, well, I have this dark side of myself and I need to manage that by doing the shadow work and stuff, by doing that processing. So I think there's a lot of different ways to deal with darkness and to manage the darkness without ignoring the darkness. So sometimes it's doing shadow work so we can turn down the volume, dial down the relevancy, and sometimes it's just leaning into the darkness in an effective, productive, and healthy way. I have not heard of Carolee. No. Donald says, we have a problem in society of we always have to be happy and fulfilled. That's not a state we can live in without some sort of drug. Even with a drug, it's not a state that we can live in, because that drug's going to wear off. And then you're just going to need more and more and more. And it's not sustainable, and it's not human. We are not meant to be happy and fulfilled all the time. That's just not natural. And nobody is accomplishing that. Oh, Ryan says she's an Estonian singer and she's all about shadow work. I'll have to check her out. Oh my gosh, this stream went by really fast. I think we only have like $28 of our 250 goal. All Are the doggies not cute enough? Did I not dance? I'll go outside and dance. I tell you I will for the neighbors. This stream went by really fast. Spencer says, I'll see Blink-182 before I die. Same. That is on me and Aaron's goal board, but man, their tickets are expensive. Hands up, if you remember when tickets were $40-$50 for big name bands, like back in Blink's heyday, their tickets were maybe $50. Nowadays, I think the tickets here were $400 a piece. It was $350, $400, $500 a piece. The really good tickets were over $500 a piece. And I don't understand. I love these guys, but I don't love you that much money. I don't love you that many dollars. Oh, Ryan asked a really great question. If you have a bad mental health day, what kind of TV content or movies should you watch? That really depends, A, on the person, and B, what kind of bad mental health day you're having. Because there are times when I want to watch something funny and I don't typically get into TV if I'm looking to improve my day. I tend to go to things that are more familiar to me. If I do watch TV, it'll be something that's familiar to me. As I was saying, I tend to lean into the darker stuff, but there are times where I'm just, I'm kind of feeling in a funk and I don't really know why, and I just need to laugh. So I'll usually do Ryan George or something on YouTube just to snap myself out of that funk or to work with that funk, or if I'm not wanting to be melancholy, and who wants to be melancholy, but there are some times where I'm just, you know what, I'm just existing right now. I don't need to try to change my feelings. I'm fine, but for the most part, when I'm truly having bad mental health days, the darker stuff really helps me a lot more to process. Dude says there's nothing darker than the pool and the beautiful. Ola says, I just sit and listen to ambient. Sometimes I will either just sit and listen to meditation music, or I will listen to classical music. My actual favorite for that, if I'm needing to zen out, is Native American flute music. I don't know why, but there's something that just helps me connect with my ancestors, I guess. My dad had a lot of Native American heritage. And I think that if I'm looking to kind of process through some stuff, that will help. So it depends, again, on what sort of tools you have in your toolbox, where your boundaries and comfort levels are. But if I'm feeling in a funk, I'll usually go to the funnier and happier stuff. If I'm feeling like I'm dealing with a lot of grief, then I will probably lean into like Native American flute music, or I might lean into just learning something new, or I'll lean into a comfort show like Breaking Bad or something like that, just an episode. Or sometimes my soap opera, if there's episodes I haven't watched, I'll go watch that just to kind of escape my brain a little bit and go, I'm gonna go live in somebody else's world for a few minutes. But if I'm just really in that, I am wildly spiraling, I have to have something dark. I cannot watch funny stuff because it's patronizing to me. I can't just sit and listen to meditation music because it just feels like the walls are closing in that moment. So those are kind of my go-tos. Spencer says, I blast my heavy music. Obviously, there's been many times where I've listened to Linkin Park as well, but there's also moods, as I was saying, there's moods where I want to listen to music, and there's moods where I want to watch something because I want to engage more of my senses. And usually I'm going to gravitate these days toward TV and stuff. I'm still feeling pretty salty about this whole Linkin Park situation, so I don't want to think about it at the moment. So I haven't been listening to them because I listen to music these days on YouTube mostly, and the more I pulled up Linkin Park to listen to them, the more I kept getting articles and things popping up on my feeds, and it was just stressing me out. No, it's not Spencer at all. Spencer says, did you know they made a show that ties into Breaking Bad? Better Call Saul? Or is there another one? Is there another spinoff? David says, Mudvayne and Chad Gray are my therapy. Get that energy out. My other go-to is Papa Roach. I like to listen to Papa Roach sometimes if I'm angry. It's also, you also have to consider the environment. So am I out and about and processing, or am I at home and processing? Did something happen out and about that triggers me? Because then that's a time also when I'll turn to music, because I can go to my car, I can go someplace private, like a park or something, and just listen to some music. So environment and context matters too. Yeah, I watched Better Call Saul. And El Camino. Did El Camino, the movie, there was a Breaking Bad movie, and admittedly, I didn't get into Breaking Bad until 2020, 2021, because it was 2021, because I was using it as a way to get through my divorce. It helped me process my divorce. And then Aaron Paul actually congratulated me on my divorce. So that was fun. But it helped me process my divorce. It helped me get through that. And I know that I was late to the party, but I felt kind of a benefit to that I didn't end up waiting between seasons. I didn't end up waiting between Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul and El Camino and all that. I just kind of watched it all at once. I think I was I came in, there was a season left of Better Call Saul when I got through Breaking Bad and everything. And it came out and I had to wait like a month for it. So not too bad. Saul was okay. I did not think that El Camino really brought anything to the narrative. I'd really love to hear you guys' opinions on that, because it had really high ratings and I just didn't understand it. Number one, there's Fat Todd. Come on, bro. You could have lost 40 pounds before you did this role, because when you're trying to do flashbacks like that, it doesn't work when the character's 40, 50 pounds heavier. Number two, it just, as I said, didn't really add anything to the world building. It didn't add anything to the story for me. I'm glad Jesse's okay and that's great, but it just didn't really build upon the ending of Breaking Bad very much for me. David asks, where's your Aaron Paul hanging out these days? Still in my office. Oh, these dogs snort so loud. Spencer says we need more seasons of Breaking Bad. Though, see, I think it was excellently paced and ended at just the right time. Because when shows go on too long, they tend to jump the shark because they're desperate for ratings and they fizzle out. And you have these shows that were once really good. Nip Tuck was like that for me, where the first few seasons were excellent at the time, and then the whole show just nosedove into oblivion, and it was really tragic to watch this really good show fizzle out of existence and fizzle out of relevancy. Yeah, David's right. There's nothing worse than a show that drags on. I think there's been quite a few shows like that, or the shows that end on cliffhangers because they thought they were going to get renewed and then didn't. Like, I remember really loving My Name is Earl. We watched that not too long ago with Aaron because he'd never seen it, so we went and watched it. And it just ends on a cliffhanger. Gallivant. I love that show. It only had a couple seasons, but it was so fun. Sometimes just fun shows are the best. And it was so fun. And then it just ended on a cliffhanger. And you never know. You never know what happens. Yes, I do know where the term jump the shark came from. It came from Happy Days and Fonzie. I was really into Fonz as a kid. I was really into Henry Winkler. I was going to marry Fonzie. Oh gosh. I have to, did I not send this to you? I thought I sent this to you. I was going to post it on Patreon, one or the other. But when I was a kid, I think I was in first grade, it said in there, because I was referencing my first grade teacher. Me and my mom had written this story about the Fonz and me and my parents and going to the beach and going on a motorcycle ride with him and stuff. And Bryson was reading it. And it gets to the point. It gets to the freaking point where he's reading it and where it was, and then they went and ate marshmallows because apparently all I ate was marshmallows and Easter eggs this whole book. And and then she had to take an insulin shot for her diabetes from eating too many marshmallows. Oh no, did it die again? It said chat disconnected. What on earth is going on? Am I here? This is so frustrating. I'm sorry, guys. I just tried to change it up a little bit. Okay, good. Let's see, the last message I saw was William saying, I'm almost 50. I love the channel. That said, I have no career, formal education, or offspring. How does one find positivity at this point? I'm not looking for pity, sincerely curious. So I am kind of at that midlife point, and I did not have a education. I don't have a career, so to speak of. This is my career, is dog sitting. So I have my own dog boarding business. I decided to go back to school because I'm a believer that it's never too late. So I actually studied real hard so I could clip out classes so I could get my degree faster. So I actually, in finishing my bachelor's degree this semester. So once this semester is done, within 8 weeks, I will finish my bachelor's program. And I say go back to school. I had done one semester of college way back in the day. It wasn't even for the same degree. I'd wanted to do natural resource management and fashion design back then. And this time I decided to do forensic psychology. So I had done one semester back then. And I was able to transfer the credits. So I could use them as electives, or there's one that I transferred as a science class. But I just studied really hard for a couple months, clept out of a bunch of classes. I taught myself French, so I clept out of 4 years of French. So I was able to get my degree, my full degree, in half the time. But I think that people put these timelines and these arbitrary limits on their life of, oh, I'm 50 and I haven't hit these milestones, so that must mean that there's no hope, right? I don't think that we really need any of the three things you mentioned to be happy and fulfilled. I know people who are child free and they're perfectly happy with that, or people that couldn't have children and they volunteered with children so that they could connect to that. I know people who are in their 50s, 60s who never had any type of formal education and didn't have what most people would consider a career, but are happy. And you know what? I like what I do. So while I don't have a career and I'm not building a 501k or any of that stuff, and people definitely judge me for it, I like what I do, and it gives me flexibility so that I can do my outreach. I can spend more time with my son or my friends. I can spend more time building the community and stuff. I just think that there's a lot of pressure to fit into this mold and to do it on a certain timeline, when I've seen people find love in their golden years. I've seen people go back to college in their golden years. I've seen people go back to college and then go on to accomplish really amazing things. As a matter of fact, Morgan Freeman didn't actually break into acting till he was beyond middle age. So just as an example, there are plenty of people that did not find what we would consider success until the second half of their life. And there are also people who just redefine what success means to them. So for me, that's what I had to do, is I just had to redefine, what does that mean for me? And part of the reason I didn't go to school, that I didn't complete college the first time, I dropped out of high school because I was sexually assaulted at 16. Dropped out of school immediately, never wanted to see him again. And then when my mom passed away at 22, about a year and a half later, I decided to try and go to school because I thought, I want to get my life back on track. I want to start trying to build things back up. Bad timing. I tried to rush into it. I went, like I said, that one semester, I was just in a really bad place. I was using, I was in a really toxic relationship. Everything was just crumbling and falling apart. And I should have been focusing on getting my mental health in order, but I tried to jump into classes I wasn't ready for. But you know what? It still paid off in the end, because like I said, I was able to use those credits. But I just think that making your own timeline and making things right to the best of your abilities. So for me, I said, these are the things that I lost because of my time using, because of this toxic relationship, because I didn't know how to handle the grief of losing my parents and I spiraled so hard because of the addiction. These are the things that I lost. Which of those things can I get back? And which of those things do I have to accept are not part of my journey now? And how can I maybe connect with what it is that I was looking to get out of that? How can I connect with that in a different way? So there are certain things that just with my age, I'm not going to be able to do now. And I have to find different ways to fulfill what it was that wasn't being fulfilled, or that I was looking to fulfill. I am not single, but yes, I very much do like English accents. William says dog boarding is legit. Thank you for your reply. You're an inspiration to many. Love Morgan Freeman. Appreciate your words of wisdom. I'm telling you, there are a lot of people, if you really look into it, that either didn't make it first try, like Walt Disney didn't make it first try. Michael Jordan got cut off of his high school basketball team. Marilyn Monroe was told she'd never be a model. And these people had to fight against society. They had to fight against that narrative. So it's absolutely possible. I'm glad that I could give some insight, some wisdom. I'm glad it resonated with you. I love the dog boarding though. Sometimes I get a little burnout, like right now. I've been here at this house for a few days because they wanted me to do 5 drop-ins a day, which is more than I usually do. I usually do 2, maybe 3, but they want me to do 5, and I said, is it okay if I just hang out during the day and do my homework and stuff and do my stream and stuff here? So I've been here for the last couple of days, kind of a little escape, but apparently not the best Wi-Fi. So I apologize for that. Thank you guys for holding space for me. T. Montgomery says, thank you for turning the stream and chat away from dark horror things. Michael almost fronted to protect me. But I love the dark. I was hoping to hear some scary stories. Oh, my voice is cracking. I was hoping to hear some scary stories. Funny enough, I actually watched the kill count for Halloween Ends this morning, so Michael Myers is fresh on my brain. Pit My Sniper says, fave Ren song. I've actually only heard a few, but I think High Ren was definitely the most powerful. So I did High Ren, Jenny and Screech. What other one did I do, guys? I know I did a third one, and now it's slipping my mind which one I did. But High Ren was definitely my favorite, definitely the most memorable. It was how I was introduced to Ren, and it was so relatable. It was very relatable. Kirk says, a wife, 5 kids, 15 grandkids, 2 great-grandkids, and own 2 businesses. William, I envy you and your freedom. I think that there are definitely pros and cons to each. You know, there's security in having a specific career, but it also does come with responsibility that you can't exactly just turn off, as does parenting. You know, it's fulfilling in certain ways, but it comes with responsibility that you just really can't turn off. And there's certain things that might be a lot more difficult for you in that context, in that situation. I don't know what happened with Sean James. I'm assuming it's because I just don't have great Wi-Fi here. It's all your fault. You're just so cute. You broke it. You just broke it. Yes, you did. You just broke it. You just want to be famous? Do you want to be a doggy influencer? What doggy bones are you going to promote, huh? You're so sweet. You're so sweet. Alrighty. So I'll give a few more minutes here for people to get in their final wins. If you want to get in some final pledges, so we have more to work with for the outreach for the community in the next couple weeks. Oh, yes, I love you. I don't love you because you're not mine, but you're cute. We'll leave it at that. That's right, David. Thank you. I did. I forgot that I did a list of our time, but I did do the one with Rosalie Reacts for suicide. Badwill says that's how it came to be subbed here. Ren reactions. I've never seen anyone like him. Is it because they just had never heard of him, or because they genuinely didn't like him? I don't understand how you could not like Ren unless you just didn't relate at all. Yes, I think I've heard of Day to Remember, Spencer. You are being very needy. You're being very, very needy. Oh, goodness. I'm challenging everyone to send me some scary stories for the Halloween season, though. If you've had anything creepy happen to you. See, my dad had a lot of creepy ghost stories happen to him, and my mom witnessed some of them. So it definitely wasn't just one person hallucinating or sleep deprived or anything like that. There were times where both my parents saw the same things that definitely were paranormal. They're doing good, Sean. They're happy. They are happy pups. They also know that they're about to eat, so. Spencer says, look up the song, Sometimes You're the Hammer, Sometimes You're the Nail, been my go-to lately. That reminds me, I used to have a thing that says, some days you're the bug and some days you're the windshield. Oh, Bad Wolf says, no, I'm saying Ren is more amazingly talented than anyone else I've ever seen across any medium, anytime. He is pretty awesome. Tram51 says, hope to do a pledge next time. I have to buy winter tires this time around. Sorry, sweetie. And I understand. I know that, like we're talking about in the winds, this is about the time where we're all doing our car inspections and our emissions and changing tires for winter and stuff. So I don't have to worry about the tires part because I'm in Arizona where it is probably 79, 80 degrees outside right now, but it's perfect. For me, 75, 78 degrees of sweater weather. Oh, we won't have another we won't have another stream until after Halloween. Yep, you guys definitely have to send me your crazy ghost stories and stuff. David says, what was your biggest surprise on the reactions? I admit Amy Winehouse blew my mind. Did not expect that from her. Huh. Biggest surprise. I actually think the Disturbed video, I think you were the one that recommended that to me, weren't you, David? That one got me pretty hard because I'd listened to Disturbed before and I just didn't expect the content to be so intense. Rin definitely hit me pretty hard. I was very pleasantly surprised there because I just don't like rap. So when somebody said, "Oh, you have to hear this new rapper," I kind of rolled my eyes and went, "Oh, yay!" But loved him. Yes, Inside the Fire, David. Thank you. What was the Bloodywood, the band that I just did? When I first did when I did my first reaction to them, again, it was okay. This band is Indian folk metal rap. None of those were genres that I was into, but it was really easy to jam and get into it. So that was a big surprise. I did not think that I was going to like that at all. There's been a lot of pleasant surprises in the reactions, and there's definitely been some that have just knocked me down for a bit or really left me to reflect and process some things, huh? But you don't have to worry about that because you're just a dog. You're just a dog that has everyone wait on you and your life is perfect. Thank you, Michael. Michael says I look very healthy. Thank you. Okay, no. T. Montgomery asked me what I'm dressing up as. I had wanted to gender ban Hades and then have Aaron and Bryson go as Pain and Panic, but we didn't plan ahead enough. I don't know, because I don't think we have B this year for Halloween, so I'm not really the go out and party type. So this is the first year in a long time that I don't have a costume planned. I got my Halloween nails, but don't have a costume planned. You can recommend songs here, Ryan. Patreons get priority song requests, though. Kirk says James Built Monsters and The Girl That Never Was. Those were two very emotional reactions. Indeed. Yeah. Monsters was heavy in a whole different way because I feel like I processed my dad's passing for the most part. It still hurts for sure, and I still miss him, but I've come to terms with it. I still haven't come to terms with her. So that one was really hard. I think that was the hardest reaction to get through. And when I finished it, I was just sitting there going, there's no way you're publishing this, Amanda. You are not putting yourself on the internet like this. You are not doing this. Because I just looked and clicked through a little bit, and I just, oh my God, my mascara is all down my face, and I look like a hot mess. But you know what? I was a hot mess. And I feel like we're not normalizing mental health if we're not showing the hot mess side of ourselves when things really freaking hurt. Spencer says, did you expect what you saw from Hold On by Good Charlotte? I'd actually heard Hold On by Good Charlotte, so I knew the song, and I thought that the visual depictions matched that really well, so I really liked that. I thought that it made a lot of sense, so I wasn't too surprised on that one. Alrighty, I'm gonna jump off because we have got to get ready. I've got to go eat and stuff before we see go see Saw in theaters. I'm excited for some stabby McStab stab. Actually, I don't think anybody gets stabbed in that movie, so some blood. There will be blood. I love you guys. I hope everyone has a happy and safe Halloween. Thank you for holding space for the technical difficulties. I love you so much, and I'll see you soon. Mwah.